I please invite the official party to move to the stage? Could I invite the colour party to please take up their station?
On this day, above all days, we remember those Australian men and women who died or suffered in the great tragedy of war. On the morning of April 25th, 1915, Australian and New Zealand troops landed under fire at Gallipoli. And it was then, and in the violent campaign which followed, that the ANZAC tradition was forged. The elements of that tradition have inspired and offered an enduring example to later generations of Australians. Each year, we pay homage not only to those original ANZACs, but to all who died or were disabled in their service to this country. They enrich our nation's history. Their hope was for the freedom of mankind, and we remember with pride their courage, their compassion, and their comradeship. They served on land and sea and in the air, and in many places throughout the world. Not only do we honour the memory of those Australians who have fallen in battle, we share the sorrow of those who have mourned them and of all those who have been victims of armed conflict. On this day, we remember with sympathy those Australians who have suffered as prisoners of war and those who, because of war, have had their lives shortened or handicapped. We recall staunch friends and allies, and especially those of the first ANZAC Day. May we and our successors prove worthy of this sacrifice. I now invite Jacob Davis to introduce today's assembly.
On the 25th of April 1915, a group of volunteer Australian and New Zealand soldiers came ashore before dawn at a small beach on the Gallipoli Peninsula, now known as ANZAC Cove. Many of these men were the same age as the students at this high school. All were keen to prove, as a representative of their new nation, they would not be found lacking in their courage and military ability. That they could equip themselves, at least, as well as the soldiers of older and more established European countries. Historians estimate that some 2,000 Australians were killed or wounded on April 25th, but there are no precise casualty figures for that day. More than 6,500 ANZACs were killed in the first week. For 8 months after the first landing, the young ANZACs underwent a trial by ordeal. Thousands of Australian and New Zealand soldiers were killed or wounded at Gallipoli. Each year in Australia, at Geraldton Senior High School and elsewhere in the world, ANZAC services are held to commemorate the fallen at Gallipoli. We come together to remember the ANZACs and their achievements. What we should remember is them as not old soldiers from a forgotten war, but as them as young servicemen they were in 1915. We celebrate their triumph over adversity and acknowledge the very high standards they set for those who followed. These services remind us that there can be no identity without a sense of history. To be an Australian or a New Zealander is to be part of the story, honoured and enacted in rituals and symbols in our ceremonies of remembrance. We are part of this story. If we forget how painfully freedom is won, we will lose it. If we take it for granted, it will not survive. These challenges change, but the virtues need to stay the same. Vision, courage, collective purpose, our willingness to sacrifice for the sake of the future, and all of the above, a sense of history. To be guardians of our future, make the most of the opportunities provided in our community and by Geraldton Senior High School, and to keep faith with our ancestors past. Wreaths will now be laid on behalf of staff and students of Geraldton Senior High School. Matilda Hutton and Ryan Kelly, on behalf of staff and students at Geraldton Senior High School. Jelani Minardo and Kingston McGregor, on behalf of Aboriginal staff and students at Geraldton Senior High School. Adriana Padikawa and Hazel Tweedy, on behalf of New Zealand staff and students at Geraldton Senior High School.
I will now recite the oath. We will then hear the last post, which will be followed by written silence. This will then be followed by a vote. Days shall grow not old. as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
please leave their station. Could the official party please leave the stage?